everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Quessie.
I'm Ashleigh.
And I'm Ashleigh, and today we'll be talking about forgiveness. So I feel like we've all been in situations where we've had to decide whether or not we forgive someone. The definition of forgiveness is letting go or stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone who has either done something to us or a mistake that they've made.
Yeah, when you forgive, you're literally giving back your own peace of mind,
Taking back your power.
letting go of negativity surrounding the interactions that you need to forgive.
Yeah, and when you talk about taking back your power, I feel like when we talk about forgiveness, it's almost like if we forgive, it's almost like we are supposed to forget what the person has done to us, or
Accept it,
yeah.
but that ain't true.
Yeah. Or even still have a relationship with that person, and that's not true either.
So let's talk about what are the components of forgiveness. Like how do we get to that state of where we no longer let something take control of us or take away our power? How do we get there?
Well, there definitely has to be some understanding on your part, because you're the one doing the forgiving. So you need to understand why you're feeling the emotions that you're feeling from the hurt that this person caused you. Why?
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, I also feel like it is important to actually experience those emotions, however you may feel about that situation. For example, instead of repressing how you feel, actually feeling what you feel, actually being sad if someone really hurts you, or being angry if someone really hurts you, in directing that back to you so that you can take your power back.
And also feeling your feelings and going through the emotions of letting yourself embrace all of those emotions. You're allowing your emotions to communicate with you, because that's all they want to do. They want to communicate and then leave.
So that's the acceptance part of it, right, ladies? And that can be the hardest part, right? Because you're acknowledging the facts, and sometimes it's easier just to pretend like shit didn't happen. But that's why we're here. Forgiveness, it's not easy work necessarily. It's hard work, and it's also something that can't be rushed. It's a process. It takes days
or weeks or months.
Right.
And it can be painful. It can be really painful. But just setting the intention of getting past that pain so that you can grow from it, so that you can experience happiness again, so that you can experience life without this hanging over you is the goal, really.
Yep. And forgiveness flows out of that understanding and acceptance. It doesn't necessarily mean approving of the past, but understanding and accepting the past is going to allow you to have such a better future and present time.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also important to understand that people's actions are not a reflection of you. People are doing as best as they can, or as best as they know. And it's important when you are understanding someone's perspective of something, is to also have compassion for the person and understand that as people, we are all not perfect. Like life didn't come with an instruction manual, like period. So it's understanding that people aren't perfect, and people are operating as best as they know. Not can, but no.
And, you know, if it's a parent or a child that you have to forgive, like someone very close to you, you know, you also have to have space and acceptance to know that that parent was not put on this earth to be the perfect parent. That child was not put on this earth to be your perfect child.
So true. And, you know, just reiterating that everybody has flaws and people go through things just like you do. They make mistakes just like you do. Even, you know, even if you are trying to come to a level of forgiveness for somebody who has done something that deeply hurt you and something that was, you know, morally wrong, you have to understand that something was done to that person to get them in a position to do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that doesn't mean you have to like what they did.
So how do we get to that level of actually forgiving people who hurt us, like deep? Start small, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic, forgive them.
Yeah, I feel like in our everyday lives that there are always opportunities to practice forgiveness. Just like how you said, Allie, about, you know, someone cut us off in traffic. This is something that probably happens every day, or, you know, everyday situations. There's always an opportunity for you to enhance your ability to forgive. So really, it is really all about taking those smaller steps if forgiveness is something very difficult for you.
Accepting what is. That's what it boils down to. You're really just being accepting to what is, and letting go of the attachment, the emotional attachment that you put on certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes things can be so hurtful to the point where any angle you look at it, you can't understand why they would do something like that. And in situations like that, that's okay. You don't have to understand everything. But just knowing that the person who hurt you is human, you know, the person who hurt you is human, and just having that level of understanding can help you get to a better place. If it's a situation where it's so hurtful, what do we do if we choose not to forgive? What happens if we choose not to forgive a person? How does that affect us?
I guess it would be good to talk about what isn't forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't tolerating a certain behavior.
So if you choose not to forgive somebody, you're letting them hold that power over your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are giving away your power over your emotions, over your actions, and letting this act of not forgiving control you because it's bothering you. It's deeply rooted in everything that you do. You know, you think about it constantly. It's going to affect your daily life. So
it's going to affect your daily life. And then you're just going to continue attracting that negativity to you, because that's all about what law of correspondence is about, right? It's your experience is related directly to your dominant subconscious thought. So if your dominant thought is negativity and somebody hurting you, what do you think the situations are going to be coming into your life and the people coming into your life?
Exactly. And it's going to be what you're putting out, because that that pain is going to be shown through your personality and through your dealings with other people. You're going to have a guard up.
And just prevent yourself from any sort of positivity or healing.
So essentially, by not forgiving, you damage yourself. You close yourself off from any other types of positive relationships, any other positive experiences. And like you said, Allie, and we talk about the law of correspondence, then you begin to attract those similar situations. And then what happens is you continue to do the same thing. So it's like you are picking up baggage along the way, along something specific that occurred that you could have forgave about and let go and start fresh, essentially.
Yes. So don't let yourself get caught up in the cycle of, you know, the negative habit of being resentful.
And you know, we know this is hard work, right? Or else this isn't an easy conversation, you know. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's very important. So one of the questions maybe the listeners are thinking is like, what if there's someone I just can't forgive?
So, I mean, if it's something that you feel there's just no way you can forgive that person, you need to ask yourself why it's important to forgive. You need to also know that in forgiving them, you're helping yourself. You're not helping them. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself and for your own peace of mind.
And, you know, just because you're forgiving that person for what they did doesn't mean that it's okay what they did to you. Your feelings are still 100% valid around the situation, but it's that understanding and acceptance of and the processing of those feelings that the forgiveness is going to flow out of. Like Quessie said, forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. You don't even have to talk to that person.
And also, it's something else that you should focus on is how much better would my life be once I forgive? Once I no longer have to feel the way that I do about this situation.
Yeah. Just taking the steps towards forgiveness, you know, like you said, the small things, start with the small things and work up to the bigger things. Because in all reality, guys, like, have we forgiven everything everyone has done to us? Absolutely not. You know, we're works in progress ourselves. And we're talking about this subject not only to encourage y'all and you all out there, but to encourage ourselves also to do the work, you know.
We should do a before and after forgiveness podcast, ladies. Whew.
Right.
I've got some people to start forgiving.
Same. I have a list.
Same. And I think, Quessie, you should probably talk about your exercise and what you're doing about forgiveness.
Sure. So when this whole podcast topic came about and we decided we were going to talk about forgiveness, a couple weeks later, I ran into somebody that I really don't deal with anymore. I've kind of had like a little resentment situation going on with that person. And I didn't think anything of it. I let it go. Resentment is still there. So then a couple weeks later, I had a dream about somebody a completely different person who I also don't really deal with anymore. And it kind of just led me down this path of, okay, maybe it's time to forgive these two people in particular, especially since we're doing a podcast on forgiveness. And these things just, you know, showed up in my life. So I started journaling, and I literally wrote a list of people that I feel like I need to forgive to move on with my life and just to have that weight taken off of me. And it helped. Honestly, I can honestly say that I feel a little lighter. I still have a list of people. I still have people on my list that I didn't get to. But I got some of them, you know.
Yeah.
Progress, baby steps.
And then we talk about small steps. Maybe that's just one step that, you know, our listeners can take to forgive. Yes. You know, make a list.
Yes.
Write it out.
Yeah.
And we're so far we're only talking about the people who have wronged us, but again, we're not perfect. I'm sure we could all make up a list of things that we feel like we need to forgive ourselves for, whether it's something that we did to ourselves, to someone we know, or to a complete stranger. Self-forgiveness, that could be where you start as well.
Yes, it's equally as important. Forgiving yourself for any wrongdoing you may have done to others, or in the situations where wrong was done to you. You might be holding on to some sort of resentment to yourself, like, how could I have been so dumb? Or, let that go. Let it go. Write down your emotions around those situations and, why you feel the way you feel. And then start thinking about how you can release those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, compassion, self-compassion, that just keeps coming up in our conversations and our notes about the podcast and forgiveness. It's like you have to have compassion for others when forgiving acts done to you, and you have to have so much self-compassion, accepting those, but then also, events that you may have, things you may have done.
And I kind of want to talk about one benefit for me and what I have realized with forgiveness. And I see forgiveness now as an opportunity for you to grow as a person. Because when we are angry or resentful of someone else's actions toward us, we learn something about ourselves. Like, anger is there for a reason. Anger, when we experience anger, we are experiencing or what we really want, or what we're really seeking is fairness or justice, because we feel like someone has done us wrong. Hence the anger emotion. So having these emotions for someone else wrongdoings to us, it's totally fine. It's totally okay. And for me, going back to why I see forgiveness as a new opportunity is because when I forgive someone, I use that as an opportunity to grow. Something needs to be changed within myself. You learn something about yourself when you're put in a situation where you have to forgive. Like, you really learn something about yourself. And when we were coming up with the treatment for this video, we were thinking about situations where we've had to forgive. And one of the things that came to my mind was, for me, recently, I feel like I have been overcommitting to different events or different things. I've overcommitted myself. And within that, I had to forgive myself, because the guilt that came with me canceling on plans or commitments, I've had to learn to forgive myself for that.
Yeah, guilt is huge. That is a big one. I'm glad you mentioned that. That is a big one that we have to forgive ourselves, and release that guilt, or it's just gonna keep on piling up.
Yeah.
So essentially, we're asking ourselves, in every situation, really, like, what can I learn from this situation? Or what did I learn from that situation, and how can I grow from it?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be better from it? But I do want to share with you guys what I wrote in my journal about forgiveness after I wrote my list of people. So I wrote, forgiveness doesn't mean I have to or need to try and restore relationships with any of these people. It just means that I understand how and why, and I release the blockages that the resentment has created. I'm free from the anger and fears I was holding on to. So with that, you know, in each situation that I feel somebody has done me wrong, my next step is to ask myself, what did I learn from those situations and how can I grow from them?
Mhm.
And I love that. I wrote that down earlier before we were filming. I wrote down that journal entry that you wrote. It's just so beautiful because I love that you're releasing yourself of the anger and the negativity because, you know, you really can't resent somebody if you're forgiving them. You have to let go of those feelings. And so by journaling, saying that affirmation out loud or in your mind, even, you know, going into a state of hypnosis and saying that affirmation, you're going to start to actually feel that way. You might not believe it right away at first, but you know, that's kind of the beauty of hypnosis is that you can say these affirmations with enough repetition and you're going to start feeling that way and acting that way.
Absolutely. Speak it, think it, and imagine it into existence.
So for action steps, right? Because we want to give you guys some actual concrete ways of being able to start forgiving. Quessie, do you want to tell us, you know, go into some more detail about the steps that you took with your journaling process?
So with journaling, I basically just wrote down, you know, the person that I intend on forgiving. I wrote down my emotions around what they did to me and why I feel like I was wronged. Um, and I also wrote down why they may have done it, my understanding of why they may have done it. And that's it. And then I literally wrote these 3 statements down. I understand, I don't have to like it, and I forgive you, so and so. And that's it.
Yeah, and I feel like I know we talked about it earlier, but another concrete step that we can take is just practicing forgiveness on a daily basis. Start small. I'm sure in our everyday lives, there's something that we can do to practice forgiveness. Like we said, someone cut us off in traffic, parked too close to us or something. Just expressing forgiveness in that way, it's good practice. Ultimately, you'll be able to do that for the bigger stuff.
More and more every day, just really kind of try to understand where people are coming from and people's positions. They're going to be different from yours, and you know why they do what they do, why they say what they say. You know, listen in a non-judgmental way.
Yeah, and also piggybacking off of that, ask questions. You really don't know why someone's acting that the way that they do. Ask questions and ask detailed questions so that you can get the answer that's there.
Listen to people with the intent to understand them, not the intent to respond, to make sure that you're really hearing them, to get an understanding. And also going back to, you know, the little things that we can practice forgiveness with in everyday life. Start with the little things that annoy you the most, you know, catch yourself when you find yourself getting annoyed. Ask yourself why, number one, and then figure out how you can let that go.
Daily practice of hypnosis is obviously something that the three of us feel very strongly and passionately about. Getting some affirmations done, writing up some affirmations on forgiveness, and going into a state of hypnosis. You can even just, you know, if you have to, write those affirmations on a note card and put them around your home so that, you know, they're kind of in your face and you can't avoid them, and you can't avoid forgiving anymore. And obviously we're all hypnotherapists, so if there's anything that you need help with when it comes to self-hypnosis, reach out to one of us and we'd certainly be happy to help you out.
Absolutely.
Now, do you guys think that should someone hurt you, do you think that you need to have contact with that person in order to forgive?
Good question. You know, if somebody shows you a certain trait again, over and over and over again, forgiving them doesn't mean that you have to be in contact with them or, establish a relationship again. No, absolutely not. You don't have to remain in contact with anybody. You don't even have to talk to them to forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
There may be a situation where somebody feels like they can't attain that closure without talking to the person. And so just be prepared. Just go into it knowing it could go one of two ways, right? It could be a good experience or it could be a not so good experience. But again, that person's actions are not a reflection on you.
Yes. Leave your expectations at the door. Leave those behind when you are communicating with somebody for closure, to forgive them.
And another way that you can attain this closure that you may be seeking is write a letter. Write about how you feel. Write a letter to yourself. Write a letter to the person who hurt you. Write a letter about the situation. And if you want to send it, send it. If you don't, throw it away and let it go.
Burn it. A lot of people will like write those letters and they will just burn
it. Yeah.
It's very therapeutic.
Another way is you can talk to someone else about the situation, gain more perspective on the situation. Talk to someone else about it. Maybe you may find that you weren't looking at the situation in that light, and maybe that light might be something that will help you to move towards forgiveness
and acceptance. Yeah. Exactly.
But keep in mind who you're talking to, because some of my best friends might encourage the resentment. We might be on the same page. So talk to somebody who understands forgiveness and how to forgive, to get their perspective on it.
Talk to a professional.
Yeah. But ultimately, focus on the good things in life. Focus on the good.
Focus on the good.
Focus on what you may gain from forgiving someone. Focus on all the positivity that comes with forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the strength that comes from forgiving. Because you have to be a very strong person to forgive difficult things. So the strength that comes with forgiveness.
And the courage that it takes.
And the courage.
And just focusing on being a better person than you were yesterday,
Day by day and in every way, guys.
All right, guys. So that's it for our podcast today. And we're just going to end with a little quote from the late, great Nelson Mandela. Resentment is like drinking poison and hoping it will kill your enemies. So on that note, bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Thanks for listening.